Hello, everybody. I'm very thankful that you're here in the Panorama Room for the sponsoring session. Please come, sit down. You have many places left. And yeah, I'm the moderator. My name is Katrin Nowak. Used to be with ETH, but that's all for me. Much more important is Gregor Wegberg. I'm very happy that he is here. He's from Oneconsult, and he's the head of digital forensics and incident response. He has already held a wonderful talk last year. I was very happy to hear that. And now he will talk about what happens when you have problems in your supply chain. So our supplier has been hit. What do we do now? Please,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction. So good morning. Thank you very much for attending this talk. I really want to talk about what happens if a key partner, supplier, service provider, whatever really matters to you gets hit. I'm not going to talk about Okta and similar attacks. I think it's a bit different when you use a large part of your infrastructure uses such a key player. I think there are other controls necessary. So I want to really talk about something that I think is not talked about enough, and it's something that we have seen the last, let me guess, I think 18 to 24 months a lot. So a lot of our cases, more and more of our cases, are not really that we come by and try to help a company recover from a direct cyber attack, but more the question, what should we do because one of our key partners got hit by a ransomware attack and we just don't know what to do. Because it's really hard to know how to react. And as you know, of course, we have perfect security, everyone. We all know our assets and so on. So it's usually necessary that someone tries to streamline and also to help to prioritize the tasks, basically. So my name, you already know. I'm part of Oneconsult. You see a bit of more information about myself. If you are more interested, feel free to look at my LinkedIn. I really want to jump into two example cases that were really relevant in the last 2 years to Swiss companies. So the first one, I think, and was very surprised that it didn't really got into the press, was a ransomware attack against Kistos. Kistos is a German company that basically provides everything that, for example, the energy sector really needs. So be it smart meters, software as a service products for smart metering, for planning your loads that you have, and so on. And they really provide the necessary software. It's also called portfolio management, for instance, is one of their key products. You can use it on your on-prem environment, but also use it as a SaaS product. And they got ransomware completely. So be it the office environment, their software development environment, the whole cloud went down. And what makes this remarkable are two things. First of all, they were not allowed to talk about the incident for a few days. I think it were 2 weeks, because the German police, the BKA, basically stopped them from it to have time to really understand what happened. So in the first few days, it was just a hiccup in their systems as a reason why nothing works anymore. I'm not an expert for how the energy infrastructure works, to be honest, but my clients basically told me in the worst case, the attackers could shut down the energy supply to single homes by basically disabling the smart meter and enabling the break, which would, for the infrastructure, mean that there is a surge with physical damage and so on and so on. So it was quite bad, and it didn't happen, of course, because the attackers likely didn't even know what they hit. But this is something that's really hard if you use, if you are a customer of Kistos, you are a critical infrastructure, you provide energy to other critical infrastructures, and then you just hear, hey, our key service provider, supplier, cloud environment got attacked, and the only information that we have, well, the service is down, and you don't know anything more. The other case that's a bit more obscure is SSE Schäfer. They are well known. I think they are top 3 or top 4 providers for warehouses, logistics service, and so on. So for these large warehouses with thousands of items. They also got, of course, ransomware, or at least, sorry, I shouldn't say of course, I assume based on what they made public, but I'm pretty sure based on their communication that this was the case. And this is, again, a supplier that I never heard of, but was and is very critical to different organizations in Switzerland again. And the reason is pretty simple. They write the software for your logistics center. They write all the control systems that you find your stuff in this large warehouse, and also can plan who is going to receive what. So they provide the software. They even manage part of your devices. They have remote access right into your warehouse. So if you depend on logistics, it's basically right into your heart. And I didn't check, but I would highly assume it's something like TeamViewer or AnyDesk, of course, which basically bypasses everything. And these 2 cases really got me thinking and got me to the idea to talk about it in such a conference, because I think we don't really take into account what happens if someone we depend on, a service provider and so on, is attacked. I really want also to note something that is, as you see in the first slide, I had to use the Wayback Machine, and here I have a screenshot from a news article. The reason is pretty simple. Of course, those informations are no longer available on the official website. It never happened, basically. I don't want to blame the victim in the end, because I think we know, every one of us knows that our organization can also get hit tomorrow. I hope not today. I'm a bit sleepy because I went yesterday, we had a case again with a ransomware attack. But in a way, it's a bit sad that they try to hide it. And this is one of the key issues that you will have. So what did our clients in the end, and we, by helping them learn and realize that it's important to take into account. So the very first thing, and I hope I'm not going to surprise you with any of my slides, to be honest, because it's always the same in one way or another. But of course, the very first question is usually, hey, what do we even use? Which services, which hardware, which software do we even know? How do they provide the services to us? Do they have direct access? And so on. So the IT department, the security department, usually the first questions is, hey, do we even care? How much do we care? And once we know, yeah, that's an important partner, okay, where do we have to add controls? Where do we have to react? What can we do even? And to decide that we have to know what we have in our environment. So it's really important to know what services and products you use, of course, and even more important in some ways, I would say, is to know what kind of access the third party has into your environment. Because the reality is, if you have a key partner, a key service provider, they usually have some kind of trust in your environment, or they have very direct access, bypassing, again, lots of your security controls right into the heart of your operations. And you know, if you are in the industry sector, if you're producing stuff, you have very likely lots of other companies. You have no idea how secure they are, how much time and money they put into their security, but their employees have direct access, again, be it TeamViewer, AnyDesk, right into the heart of your operation, because it's the easy way. And of course, they have privileged accounts, because without domain admin or at least local admin, they can't do their work, of course. So you really have to think about that. And the key point here is, I really want to motivate you to think about the case that you have partners, that they also can get attacked, and this is relevant to you. So you have to think about how you put it in your own security efforts. You have to take that into account. Because the reality is, their security maturity, their security level, most likely doesn't meet yours, and I assume yours exceeds a lot theirs. Because of somehow you are responsible for security, you are at this conference, so most companies don't have people that have time and even exist to go to such a conference as this one. So you have to realize that also lots of your security really depends on the other party, and you have to know what access they have? Asset management, identity management. It's sadly always the same topics. But if you have asset management, if you do manage your identities, try to think, okay, what can we do to know that this account belongs to a third party? Can we tag it? Can we comment it? Can we find it easily? And so on. This would help a lot. And something that in all the discussions came out is basically the surprise, which is not really a surprise if you think about it, of course, but in the situation it is one, that most of your security controls do not apply to the third party. Because in the best case, you provide them with a user account, you provide them with a VPN access, and so on. But in most cases, they just have an account for a free service like TeamViewer, and they just access something inside your environment, bypassing all your firewalls, NDR, EDRs, and so on. And this really changes basically the risk profile of these accounts, of these users. And you have to take this into account. And to even be able to do anything in such a case is transparency. So first off, you have to know that something happened. In both cases, the companies were not really interested in informing their customers. In both cases, the affected companies basically found out just by chance. So in one case, it was a friend of a friend of a friend that told them, hey, we have something. He worked at one of the two affected companies. So, hey, we are sitting at home, we don't work. Hey, do you want to go to the zoo with me? So, and this was the reason for even the affected party to know that their supplier was hit. And transparency is really important to even know, okay, first of all, what should you do? So what is affected? Is the whole company affected or just part of it? How much access did the attackers had? And also, ideally, you get some technical information, be it IOCs, be it TTPs, so you can start searching for similar types of activities in your environment. That would be perfect. Now, you can already imagine that most companies don't want to talk about it, of course, because it could be a liability. The legal department would and will stop such information usually. So you need some way to force them, in a way, to provide you with information. And the nice way, in my opinion, to force them is, for instance, you build a community. Most likely, you know other organizations in your field, potential other customers of the same organization, come together, build a small community of affected organizations, and try to motivate them with your combined power to provide you with additional information. One way that really helps is to not force the other company to provide it in a written form, because that feels much more like a liability. But usually it's easier to discuss it in a call and in a more friendly environment with prepared questions. There was a question?
How would you know?
Yeah.
How would you know who's affected? Because this is usually kind of confidential.
Yeah, so the question was, how do you know even that something happened? It's kind of, because it's confidential. You usually don't. So there are services, threat intelligence services, for instance, that sell you the information that they will monitor your partners and inform you once something happens. My personal experience with, I think, 2 products in that space, well, they know it basically at the same time as Twitter knows it, or however it's called now, or the public knows it, basically. So there's not really added value. One way you can, and thank you for the question, because I wanted to go exactly in that direction. Another way is you start thinking about it now. So, okay, we have partners, we have critical partners, we have key partners. How do we motivate them and basically prepare us for a situation where we can ask them questions? So ideally, you put it into contracts. So for instance, if you have a key partner, let's say Kistos or SSE Schäfer, for most of our clients, they provide software as well as hardware, as well as support and maintenance. Okay, let's put into contracts that we want to know if the software has vulnerabilities, so force them to inform you. and at the same time force them to some extent to talk to you in case they have an information security incident. Because you care about it, first of all, and second of all, let's be realistic, in most cases, it's not unlikely that you have to evaluate if you have a data privacy issue because the other company got hit. So in any way, you should be informed that they had an incident because they processed some of your personal information, and with that, you have also obligations that you have to meet. So this is also, so ideally, in my opinion, again, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because most companies are not that interested to sign such contracts, of course, is to combine the necessity of software vulnerabilities, information security incident, and data privacy incident. So basically, create a funnel how they have to inform you. Even better, again, create a community. I know you have to talk to your opponents in the field usually, but in information security, we are a bit more friendly, I think, because we are more interested on the same side. We are more on the same side. We are interested to be more secure. So one other way that I also try to motivate our clients is to, hey, let's talk to other companies in the same field, find out where we have common suppliers, and let's talk about, hey, how can we together improve the situation by basically requiring the same kind of contracts, for instance, or sitting down with the other company together with all their clients and discuss, okay, we expect that you inform us because that's the new threat landscape. We are not only affected by attacks directly against us, but also against you. We care about it. And then once you have all that information, of course, really easy to get it, the big question is usually, okay, we have to implement some security controls. That's the easy part usually. That's the part that all of you can do quickly. You know what you have to do once you know what you have and what basically happened. If you don't know, nowadays we just assume ransomware attacks, so we use that as a hypothesis and react accordingly. But the next big question is usually, okay, can we trust them again and when? So from what point on do we trust our partner again? The bad reaction, in my opinion, or the wrong reaction would be we stop all our contracts, we stop working with them because they got attacked successfully, and we search another partner. I wouldn't recommend that. The reason being, they know what happens now. They are much more interested to prepare themselves for the next time. They have learned something, usually. And let's be realistic. The other company gets also, at some point in time, they will also get hit. So the problem doesn't really change for you. The risk profile is still the same. But coming back to trusting the other entity and, okay, from what point on do we allow access again? At what point do we start installing their software and updates again? Can we trust their source code, their applications? Are they backdoored and so on? We had multiple supply chain issues with software in the past. It's a really hard question to answer. In the end, it's a feeling, because there are no facts usually. Ideally, in a perfect world, the other company would contract or have their own experts that go through the whole software, check for the integrity of the software. But you know, it's not realistic right now. We don't have the tools and the processes and the money in the end to do that quickly, in addition. So what you usually want is to have a questionnaire, questions that you want to be answered by the other company. You want to know what happened. You want to know how far it went. But you also want to know what did they do against it, so short-term, mid-term, long-term measures they took, and what they learned. I personally really like the chapter about what they've learned, so what were their lessons learned, because from experience, if you read it, you have a feeling, did they take it seriously? Did they really try to understand what happened and learn something from it, so be better next time? Or is it just a marketing statement? If it's just a marketing statement, it's much harder to trust them again. But if they took the time, and both companies took the time also to have a call, so higher management and technical people went into a call with customers of ours to talk about both incidents, that really helps to rebuild trust. Of course, they can still be attacked. Of course, that's just fact of our business. But you really want to see that next time they already know they shouldn't just put out marketing statements in the first 3 weeks, but tell their customers more details right away. That's something that both companies, I hope, learned now. And then you have to decide, okay, what have we learned? So were we prepared for the case? Did we have the necessary process and measures in place? And how can we improve our environment right now for the next time that they get attacked? Because usually it was built, we didn't have the time, the security was an afterthought, and so on. You know your dark places in your environment. And if one of them is affected, it's usually a good time because potentially you even disabled those devices, disconnected them, if you could. That's a potential point in time you can improve your own security. But as you already, I think you feel, it's really, I would say in Swiss German, wishy-washy. You are really in the unknown. You usually have not enough information to know how to react and react with confidence. And usually you work on a hypothesis like, okay, most likely they got hit by a ransomware attack. Let's assume all the data is gone and stolen. So, okay, they have passwords, they have access tokens, they have some cached credentials and so on. And you start working on that. Trust is also about building trust for the future. And that's something I would, again, recommend to do now. So if you can, find out which key players do you have, key partners, key suppliers, service providers, and just get to know them. Sit down with them. Get a coffee, a beer, I don't know. It really helps to talk to your key partners and just ask some questions. What would happen if you get hit? Because we are really interested to work together on it, so the impact is not as big as it could be. We are interested in supporting you because in the end you are in the same boat. So that's something you can do already today. On the technical side, of course, you can do also a lot. If you realize that you have user accounts, for instance, used by a third party, by external people with their devices you have no visibility into, maybe it makes sense to tag or recategorize those accounts as a higher criticality account or a higher impact account for your SOC if you have a SOC. So they know if we see malicious behavior or potential malicious behavior associated with such an account, they will react a bit quicker, as with a device where you have host-based security controls, you have much more network-based security controls and so on. That's something that you can do. You can, of course, also buy services that scan your partners and provide you with information about their security. Be careful with that. Usually it's just, do they have a nice TLS configuration? Do they have a nice email configuration? I think we can have the discussion later at our booth, but that's not necessarily an information that talks about how secure are they internally, how well are their processes. It's more about the public-facing part. Now, before I leave you with a bad feeling, I hope not, at least you are not too much scared. I hope I didn't fart you, basically. So how bad is it really? If we do not talk about Microsoft and Okta cases, it's not so bad, to be honest. So yes, we had a few cases, but so far the attackers were opportunistic and financially motivated. They didn't really care what they hit, so as far as we can tell. And they didn't explore attacking partners, partners, clients, and so on. So we had one case where we know that a ransomware attack happened because of an attack against a supplier, where it used trust between Active Directories and so on, and basically that moved laterally in another company. But even that was by mistake. They didn't leave a ransom note or anything. They just encrypted everything because they thought they were still in the original company. So far in Switzerland, as far as I know, it's a risk we have to think about. I can imagine it will get worse, but right now it's something we can prepare for and don't have to be scared of. If you want to talk more about it, feel free to come by. I'm at the booth of Oneconsult and would like to talk a bit more what you can do to improve your security. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gregor. It was a wonderful insight in the little time you had.
Thank you.
We're welcome for questions, please. Would be very nice if you just shortly said your name and which company or organization you're from. And yes, my nice colleague will provide you with a microphone. Don't be shy. Maybe as a warm-up, I have a question. How hard it is to establish that community? How hard it is to have, for example, permanent contacts, people you can reach?
It's in our experience, it's quite hard. So usually you have someone on the team that knows, oh, I think the other company uses also the same product. Otherwise, if you are part of the closed user group of the NCSC, there's a weekly briefing, and it makes sense to point out that, hey, we know that one of our suppliers got hit. If anyone else uses the same supplier, we would like to connect. That worked very, very well in one of the cases. So these are basically the two ways that we know of, because you don't want to make it public and put it on as a press release. So, hey, we are looking for people that also are affected by this cyber attack. Yeah.
Here's a question again, please.
Hi, my name is Thomas. I work for an aerospace defense manufacturing company. So we have a ton of suppliers, right? And maybe a question is not like, how are you supposed to handle your suppliers? I think you answered that quite nicely. Maybe a question is like, how do you, like you have different levels of suppliers, right? You mentioned things like, okay, you either have like your warehouse manufacturing supplier, elevator supplier, or you have something like Okta. Like, what are like your tips and strategies, if you can say like that? And I'm not sure if I'm asking like a short question or like a full presentation question at this point, but like what should we do to kind of better prepare? I understand that the response part is like what you said, like, well, if you know that they got hit, then you tell the SOC that these are all assets now have higher likelihood, and there's a higher risk that some threat actor is going to come from these specific accounts. But what if we have like complete solutions? What if we have software? Should we do anything different when we have software, or when we have, I don't know, the whole warehouse?
Yeah. So there are multiple avenues you can take, and really depends which one is the easiest and the one that you can start first and quickly. So one way is, of course, prepare for the case. So have a plan in place. So, okay, how do we find out, and what do we do once we know that someone got hit? So classical incident response plan, that just to have a checklist to not forget anything. So basically a small playbook that you prepare to ask the right questions, basically. That's a small thing that usually a security department can do for itself, and then start talking to other departments. The second part, I would start talking to other departments, find out, okay, what are the key players for you? Again, take a coffee break, get to know them. That's something that I always recommend, independent of suppliers or any other information security that you have to handle. Then there is, if you have a BCM in place with a business impact analysis, you can start with the business impact analysis and look, okay, which processes, which operational activities are especially important for our organization, and start there. Okay, which suppliers are associated with them, talk to those suppliers first, and so on and so on. So basically start there where you have a bit of information, you can start following it. Don't try to start on a green field, so okay, we want to do supplier management. We need a supplier management document and a manifesto, I don't know, whatever. So start with what you already have. Yeah.
Are there more questions over there?
Thank you for the presentation. My name is Eduardo Gerosa, and I work for Sherpany. I'm the CISO there, and we're basically suppliers for many companies in Switzerland. So we're suppliers ourselves. I have one simple question, which is, do you think that an ISO 27001 certification gives you a sufficient guarantee that your supplier has the same information security standards as you? If yes, why? And if not, why not? And what should we do, to compensate that?
So the question was already, I've already seen some heads move. No, it it's not enough, to be honest. It's a good start, in my opinion. I'm still a fan of certification because that's a good way to start with the whole process, in my opinion, at least. Why not? Both companies, I think, at least one was ISO certified. So Kisses had ISO certified, SOC 2 reports, I think, even for the cloud service and so on. Also the full range that you would expect from a critical infrastructure supplier. Why not? Well, it's usually, in my opinion, it's usually about the scope is usually, okay, how much do we do for our own security? It's I never seen a company, to be honest, where the ISO certification really also discussed, okay, what do you do for your clients? How do you handle them? Is communication to them part of your incident response, which is again required by that you have an incident response management basically in place by ISO. So those questions are not asked basically by the certification bodies. I wouldn't stop doing it. So I still think that's valuable to do certifications, but we have to do something that is based in the real world, in the day-to-day business. Less about the documentation, less about the processes, but do we even follow our processes? Do we did we think about it? And that's something that, especially in your case, for instance, you have to talk to legal and communication departments to talk about, hey, we would like maybe to provide our clients with quite detailed information. Can we? And what should we do that we can? Most likely some additional NDAs are necessary and so on to stop, at least on paper, others to make that information public, but that provides you with the possibility to share the knowledge. Because usually, in my experience, in both cases also, the security people, they were very eager to share information because they know that it's valuable and in the end also valuable to their own organization. But correctly, they were stopped because no one thought about it and it's too high of a risk to do it during the incident response. So ideally, you start thinking about, can we even talk to our customers? Do we have a way to contact them? Or do we have to send our sales rep to talk to them, which usually dissolves trust, then it builds up trust. Yeah. Okay. You're welcome.
I'm so sorry. If you have further questions to
Yep.
Gregor, please do so in the coffee breaks and the lunch breaks. We have a tight schedule, so you're welcome to come here.